welcome or welcome back to a new video. I hope that you're doing great. Today I want to share a little painting experiment I did very recently. You might have seen that I have discovered gouache in the past few months, and it's been a lot of fun to try to learn how to use this new medium and experiment with it. But I felt like my gouache paintings had quite a different style and feeling to them compared to my oil paintings, and so I wanted to try painting the same reference with the two mediums to see just how different the two would turn out to be. So we're starting with a gouache painting. I am working on watercolor paper that is 270 GSM. I typically go for 300, but I got the wrong one last time I went to the store. And if I was working with watercolor, I'd be more concerned about it. But since I'm using gouache, and for the most part, I'm not using a lot of water, I'm not too worried about it buckling to the point I can't work with it. I would be more worried about that if I was just kind of doing layers of really watered down paint, but I'm not in this case. And then with oils, I'll be working on a wooden panel that I prime with 2 layers of gesso, and that's what I generally do to all of the surfaces that I paint with oils on. Then the gouache I'm using is a mix of Winsor & Newton and Royal Talens, and I use a total of 6 colors compared to the 9 oil colors I use. So for gouache I use primary yellow, yellow ochre, spectrum red, primary blue, ivory black, and then Royal Talens white. While with oils I use a total of 9 colors, as I said, which don't include black in this case, and instead I have a bright orange, a burnt sienna, burnt umber, and Payne's grey. And the other colors are not exactly the same, but very similar. I do use yellow ochre, that is my absolute favorite yellow. So that's one difference with materials. I feel like it particularly shows up in the fact that my oil painting has a warmer tone compared to my gouache painting, and it definitely has to do more with the way that I mix my colors, I feel like. But I definitely noticed I have a tendency to warm up my white a lot in my oil paintings, which I feel like I don't do as much with gouache. And it's interesting to see that, just the way that I approach paintings, but also I feel like the gouache painting is much more balanced in terms of colors because it has a nice variety of warm and cool tones, while with the oil paintings it tends to more get all like mixed up together and the colors kind of muddy up a bit more, because I am not very good at like switching between brushes properly and using loads of brushes so colors don't contaminate one another. I definitely should work on that, but I think that's why my oil painting ended up being overall more warm toned and more kind of uniform, and I think less balanced than my gouache painting. Then when it comes to brushes, I am literally using the same brushes for both. I know, again, I should use different brushes for my oil painting and for water-based mediums, but I don't do that. So there's no differences in the actual brushes, but my brush strokes definitely show up a lot more with the oil paint, which is a more material paint. It's thicker, there's more substance to it. And I love leaving my brush strokes very evident, and I find you guys really like them as well. That's one of the main kind of comments I got about these two pieces. People tend to like the oil paint more because of that aspect of it, and it's just a look that I personally like and really like working with. But I also find that the gouache piece is cleaner in a way, and it's more defined because my brush strokes kind of show up with stronger edges. I also feel like I definitely have done the gouache piece differently, in the sense that it's very transparent in certain areas and I really only went opaque in certain elements. So I think that would have been another very different look if I had gone opaque all the way, which I have done in previous paintings, but I don't know, I just didn't do it in this case. I'm still very new to gouache, so this is also like a good practice experiment for me. But I also feel like this technique of leaving certain parts of the painting more unfinished, I suppose, also helps to draw the attention to the subject of the painting and kind of give more of a sense of dimension. It highlights the main subject and kind of pushes the background to the actual back a bit more, and to a certain degree I think I do that with oils as well. I kind of pick my focus point and that's where I add more details, but I think it's much more evident with the gouache piece, and the oil piece turn out to be again more uniform and just a bit more flat in a way, although people did say that they found the oil piece more contrasting, so I don't know. It's really interesting to see the different opinions on that as well. And then something else I think is worth mentioning is that I did the oil painting alla prima, but the gouache painting is done in layers. That's a personal choice, just in the way that I like to paint. You could definitely use both mediums the other way around, so layer the oil paint, which a lot of people do. I like to do that for bigger pieces, not for smaller sketches and like things that I do in my sketchbook, or just like studies that I like to do, like this one. And you could also do just one opaque gouache layer, go straight in with the perfect color and everything. I personally don't think it's something I can pull off just yet, because I definitely don't have enough practice with gouache to be able to do that. And I also, as I said, I really like the fact that some areas of the painting are a bit more watered down in this case, and it's a look that I'm trying to play around with a bit more. But I have seen, for example, Hamrib, she makes amazing gouache paintings where she just goes in directly with opaque gouache and doesn't really layer, so it's definitely possible. I just don't think I have the skill level to do that yet. I should try it out though, for like maybe a smaller sketch. I think that would be good practice. So personally, I think I overall like the colors of the gouache painting better, but the style of the oil painting more. So I think to get the perfect one, it would have been an oil painting, but with some cooler tones. Well, some more evident cool tones, like in the mocha pots and the background. I think some cool tones would really have balanced the composition more. While in this case, as much as I like the oil painting, I think it's a bit too much on the warm side. Also, I really like the color that I used for the cutting board that I took the picture on in the gouache painting, which is more on the red tone, while in the oil painting, again, I made it more yellow, and so I feel like there's just a lot of yellow going on. I think it would have been nice to have a bit more balance. I'm not going to go back and fix it. This is just an experiment, and it's really interesting to see how I did things differently in the two paintings and how I would now combine it to get a painting that I personally like better. But I'm still really proud of both, and I really like both, honestly. It's just very interesting to see the comparison, and I'm happy I did this, and I might actually do more of these in the future. And also, as I said, I asked over on Instagram what you thought about them as well, and generally speaking, people seem to like the oil painting better, but I also got some comments saying that they prefer the gouache one because the details stood out more, like in the towel and everything, which is definitely true. The reason why I did that is because with the gouache painting, the areas of the towels and things like that, I left them very watered down, and so I felt like somehow I needed to pull everything together by adding a tiny bit more detail to those without going fully opaque. But with the oil painting, since I went fully opaque on everything and I didn't really leave any areas properly unfinished, I wanted to add more detail to certain elements in order to pull more focus on those, and instead of just detailing everything and then having nowhere where I can rest. So that was kind of an intentional choice to leave certain areas without much detail, because that way the eye has somewhere to rest, and I feel like that helps to balance out the composition. But then again, interesting to see how different people prefer certain things. But anyways, I really hope you enjoy seeing these painting processes. I would love to know your thoughts and your feelings about these, which you prefer, why. It's always interesting to see how different people perceive different paintings and kind of get, you know, constructive criticism on them. So I will be gladly chatting to you in the comments, and with that being said, I wish you all a lovely week, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!